Hello, this is the first episode of How to Screw Up Your AI Thing, a mini course that will teach you how to avoid the most common mistakes that people make when trying to use AI for their business or for their life. The first most common mistake that people make is thinking that AI is just one thing. They would say, oh, it's like a calculator, it's a tool. And people understand that there are multiple different brands of calculators and they have different buttons, but fundamentally they believe that all calculators do the same thing. They multiply and subtract and do all sorts of math operations and do them predictably. And they bring the same mentality to AI, thinking that AI is just one thing. So let's apply AI to this and let's apply AI to this. This is the type of conversation that you hear. And it's not even wrong. It's just completely misunderstanding that AI is not one thing. AI is actually a whole stack of different things. And you need to understand, without the technical details, the basic parts of the AI stack. So let's look at the AI stack and think about the different parts. This is going to be the first part. So the first thing that happens is we need to talk about models. Models are the heart and soul of what people mean when we actually say generative AI. There are different kinds of models. There are models that generate text, there are models that generate images, there are models that generate videos, sound, 3D, whatever type of thing you want to think about, there is a model to generate that. But models are not the same as products. So ChatGPT is a product. It's an application. It uses a model called GPT, and there are different types of GPT model. Right now, the latest version, I believe, is 5.2. There are different intensities of how this model could work, but that's the important distinction. Models are basically the heart of it. Very few people have decent models. To develop a good model, and essentially a model is a lot of statistics. Right, so let's focus on the language models for a second, which are the most important part of the AI revolution. Language models really, what people did was they read all of the internet and they understood from the internet how language works and sort of what's more likely and what's less likely. And you can predict the response, and then you can fine tune and train the model and apply various techniques to make it behave the way you want it to behave. But fundamentally, that's a piece of software that basically takes something in, for example, a piece of text, and then gives you something out. It could be a piece of text, or it could be a picture, or it could be something else. Now, this is really where all of the hard stuff is, and so they are the labs that create those models. There are very few good labs. So OpenAI is one, Anthropic is another. Google obviously has DeepMind, which produces Gemini and all sorts of other models. You have xAI as a lab, which produces Grok models. You have Mistral and a bunch of others. You have DeepSeek, right? But all of those are basically, you have an organization that spends a lot of time and money creating the best possible model. Now, the model is a piece of software that cannot be used by itself. It's just a big file. You can think about it this way, and it's massive, but it's just a big file. It's just sitting there. And so you need to access the model to actually do something with it. And this is where providers come in. Providers are the people who are basically saying, we're going to have this model sitting on our infrastructure and our server, and people can come in and use that model. Why this is important, that labs and providers are not the same thing. So OpenAI is the lab that developed the model. Now, they also act as a provider, so you can call the OpenAI API and get access to GPT-5 model. But you can also get access to GPT-5 model via Azure, for example, or via a whole bunch of other providers. This is really important because people sometimes confuse, we cannot use ChatGPT for some reasons. You don't have to use ChatGPT. You can still use the intelligence of the GPT model in a way that is deployed in a different environment. So you can go to Microsoft and Azure and have it there, and you can go to Replicate and have it there. And so This is the difference, and the same goes for Google. They're their own provider, but you can also access Google's models elsewhere. There are aggregator providers, and this is becoming really helpful because models have different properties. Some models are better for certain things and worse for other things. Some models are more expensive and less expensive, faster, slower, different capabilities. And so very often when you're building a real thing with AI, you want to use multiple models. And the easiest way to do that is to come to a provider that offers all sorts of models. So if we're talking about language models, then, for example, you can use a provider called OpenRouter, and you can go ahead and access GPT and Gemini and Claude and everything else via the same provider. And they're not going to train on your data or anything like that. So that's important to understand the difference between providers and the labs who actually create the models and providers who run the inference, as it's called, so allow you the ability to use the model. Now, okay, so that's the bottom of the stack. You can think of this as sort of, this is where the intelligence sits, but you still cannot use it because it's still just a file, or if you're looking at a provider, it's just a technical endpoint for you to send API calls to. But when people say they're using AI, they mean that they're using something. They go to some sort of an application. And so we go to the next layer of what people build on top of it. That's the application. So ChatGPT is an application that behind the scenes uses GPT models. Gemini on your phone is an application. Claude.ai is an application. Claude Code is a different application that for a different purpose, for coding, but it uses the same underlying model. Anthropic's latest Claude 4.5 Haiku or Opus Source, they're different sizes. But basically, this is the thing that you use. And there are applications that the labs themselves offer, right? So OpenAI is a lab. It also develops a model. It can be a provider, and it offers an app to you. But you can also have apps that don't have their own models, and that's fine. So if we switch, for example, to images, when you go ahead and use an app such as Glyph, they don't develop their own models, but you can access all sorts of models from their interface. Or you go to a provider like Replicate, they have all sorts of models in there. So the app layer is really what you're using. And when you go ahead and use Photoshop, for example, and there is a AI solution in there, that means that you're using the Photoshop app, and then behind the scenes, it's using some sort of an AI model. I believe they're starting to roll out Nana Banana, the Google's model, to be available right inside Photoshop. So that's the app. That's what you actually go ahead and use. And these things do not have to be connected. You can be using GPT model without using ChatGPT, and vice versa. Well, not in the case of ChatGPT, but in case of a lot of apps that you either use or buy or build, you can pick and choose all of those components separately. And it's really important that you do realize that, because different models are and different UIs are good for different use cases. So it's about what you're trying to do. What's the best, most cost-effective, most secure, most usable solution for whatever it is that you are trying to do. And now there is the next word here at this level of the stack, which is agents. In relationship between apps and agents can be confusing, and it's sort of all is being figured out as we speak. But agents are essentially LLMs, right? So models that sort of can go ahead and do things. Now, sometimes the agent lives inside the app. So when inside ChatGPT, you go ahead and give it a task, and then it goes off and searches the web and compiles a report, that's it acting as an agent. But you can also build your own agents that use other apps on your computers. For example, when you're using Claude or ChatGPT computer use, you're basically telling your agent inside this app, go ahead and use other things. Use my browser, for example, for me. And you can set it up so that your agent can use other apps. So this is a funny relationship, but the important thing is app is about the UI and the UX of what you go ahead and do, and there is AI inside it. And then the agents are basically, you can think of them as like mini employees that you tell them to do certain things, or they can be triggered on schedule to go ahead and do certain things, and then they go ahead and do that for you. And sometimes they're using apps behind the scenes. Okay, I know this may sound confusing, but let's keep adding layers, and hopefully as we go forward in this course, it will all start making sense. So apps and agents are still just wrappers around models, really, right? Because you have the LLM that has the intelligence to go ahead and do things. But without the data, it's just, and without context and without ability to do things, it's all just, a chatbot that can talk back to you. And so this is where the next layer comes in of how do you actually make those things do what you want them to do. The first, and what everybody knows about, is prompts. So prompts, they come in sometimes, what you say in your ChatGPT is already a prompt. This basically tells the model what you want from it. But also you have things like system prompts where you essentially cast a certain agent to behave in a certain way always, not just when you tell it specific things. But also prompts are simply conditioning the model to behave in a certain way. You also need to give it data. So if you're running a business and you want your agent to actually have ability to process your receipts or whatnot, or to have access to your previous data, you need to give it access to data. So this is, the fancy term context engineering of how do you actually select the right data and the right prompt and fit it all into the very limited space that the LLM has to reason and to think about. But that's beside the point right now. The important point is you need to decide what your agent can and cannot see. And this is where a lot of the people go wrong, because they think, oh, stupid ChatGPT, I just told you to go ahead and look it up here. But if ChatGPT does not have the capability to go ahead and look it up, if it's not connected to the data, then it would not be able to do that. And so being very clear around what are the pieces of data that your agent or your app or your model eventually needs to have access to, that's basically gonna make or break your use case. And related to that, on the other side of it is what's called tools, which basically are connectors to the outside world, right? So a tool can be an ability for your agent or within your app, an ability to go and search the web. It could be an ability to issue an invoice, or even do something in the physical world. Like whatever actions agents will want to take, they are called tools. And so this is a simplified picture of the full stack. And now with this kind of broader understanding, we can think about, okay, when I say use AI, what do I actually mean? Sometimes the bottleneck is in the quality of the model. And really all models are very different, and you need to know which model is good for what, and you need to not get stuck in an outdated model. I had a conversation just a couple of weeks ago with a friend, and he was telling me, oh, let me ask AI, and it was giving him some stupid responses, and I was poking, like, what's going on? That's strange. That doesn't sound like the models of today. And I asked him what he was using, and he said, oh, I'm just asking the Meta AI in my WhatsApp. And I was like, oh, okay, I understand. So that's a terrible old model that nobody should really use for anything specific. It's completely outdated and not very good. As of now, who knows what they're going to make in the future. But so picking the right model for the right task is really important. And obviously, you should use a good model, but you should not always try to use the best model, right? Because if you're using Gemini 3 thinking for answering a very simple question, you're going to waste money and you're going to waste time, and it's going to take a long time. Especially if you do that at scale, the money is going to come in as a big concern. So sometimes it's important to actually choose a small model for a small task. There are very technical tasks like turning complicated PDFs with lots of graphs into readable text, so that you can put that into the context of your LLM and have it reason with it. And using an expensive model for that is going to slow you down, and it's going to have a very bad experience. You should use something small and purpose-built for this, like Mistral OCR. for example, right? So we're not going to go into the details, but basically picking the wrong model sometimes creates a bottleneck and an illusion that what you're doing is simply not working, while switching just to the right model will make all the difference. Sometimes people just don't give it the right data or don't give it access to the right tools and think, oh, this thing is stupid, it doesn't have the context. Obviously, it doesn't have the context because you didn't do it. And so sometimes people say, oh, we need to train our own AI. No, most of the time you don't. Sometimes you do, but very, very, the majority of cases, you don't need to train your own AI. The big models that big companies develop are great, really good at a lot of things. What you need to do is you need to condition them with the right prompts, with the right data, and with the right tools to make it do what you need it to do. Another real life example, I have a friend who is involved in a business that sets up flower installations for commercial retail, right? So hotels, cafes, and so forth. And right now they provide their clients with fairly shitty 3D renders of what the flowers would look like. And he was asking me, can AI help us make this presentation of the would-be shop much better? And I was, yes, absolutely. But we need to talk about the details, which model we're going to use, and then what kind of data does it need as an input. And so he was just trying to sort of go to ChatGPT and tell it to generate the thing, and it didn't look anything like their flowers. Obviously, because he was not giving the right data. First, you need to choose the right model. So for this, Nano Banana Pro from Google is the perfect model right now. 2, you need to understand what data and context it needs. So first, it needs the pictures of the individual flower pots that they have so that it can fit into the thing. Second, it needs to have a picture of the shop or the hotel that they're trying to fit it into. And then third, it needs the right prompt, and maybe it needs a sketch of where things should go if their designer is intentional about this. Once you provide that, the model can visualize it brilliantly, right? But you need to understand what to give to the thing so that you get out of it what you want. So sometimes the wrong model, sometimes it's the wrong data or the wrong prompt, or not giving it the right tools that are available, for example, to search the web or to scrape certain pages or to have access to certain APIs. And sometimes it's trying to just do too much and overcomplicate it and, spending 3 months trying to pick the best app. Well, really, all you need to do is go ahead and understand what it is that your business really needs, and then write a good prompt, stick it into ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever it is that you prefer to use, and make it work. So that's the first intro. The first mistake that you should avoid is thinking that AI is just one thing. It's not. It's definitely more than one thing. The stack is complex. The reason whatever you're trying to do could or couldn't work could be sitting on all sorts of these layers. And it takes a little bit of knowledge and experience and screwing around to understand this question. But once you do, and once you develop an intuition of which model is best for what are the best providers in terms of cost and quality and speed, what are the types of data that you need, then you can actually go ahead and build something that works for you, for your business, for your personal life, for whatever it is that you're trying to do. And then you can start using the right apps to actually string it together, which is what we're going to talk about in some of the next episodes, be that Glyph or be that N8N or some other tools that allow you to build your own chains of different models and agents, but that's for later. For now, let's just focus on avoiding the first mistake, which is thinking that AI is like a calculator and AI is just one thing. It's not. It's more complex than that. And for now, you do need to understand that complexity or hire somebody who does. Thank you very much, and I see you in the next episode.